And it appears that JohnRossums is off and getting a heart piece right out of Link's house. And we do have a pendant there with blinds. So I know the earlier discussion about blind being required, not going to get a crystal out of it. So we'll see when that gets routed in.
That might still get routed in anyway, because it's right there, it's early, it's in sphere 0 of where it's your starting sphere, basically, is what I'm getting at here. And yeah, that's not going to be fun.
Yeah, and JohnRossums getting the bombs out of the pole there. That's a big find. Going to open up Hype Cave for us early.
An early Hype Cave can really be hype, especially early, but it can also be disappointing. It all depends.
And there is the hammer. So you're right there, Leslie. It is a very hype start, and we also got a Moon Pearl and the mirror. Quite the hype from Hype Cave.
For once, Hype Cave living up to its namesake. And that is very big, because that hammer is going to allow going through Thieves Town with a weapon that does tempered sword level of damage, and you don't have to worry about a hammer-locked item. That could be something we see early.
Yeah, and Kyong obviously, farming for bombs here and heading up in to do some Skull Woods checks, but will not be able to get any of those items until they make their way south. So this is a nice little early advantage for JohnRossums. We'll see what he does with it. Oh, taking a death there.
Ooh. Not something you want to see happen, but in inverted, you got to be careful, because you're in the dark world, the tougher part of the game. Just about anything can take you out quick.
Yeah, and you can see that right there from Kyong. Just one hit, just 2 hits actually from that Gibdo, and dead. So both our runners taking very early deaths. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what we were talking about early on, where this is going to be a very challenging early game for both our runners.
Yeah, this is an early game where you can get hacked pretty early and pretty often.
Yeah, so far, Kyong not finding anything there in Skull Woods. JohnRossums looking to be making the same plays.
Oh, there's a rod on the ledge.
Oh my. Well, for those of you who didn't want to see the Magic Cape today, unfortunately we will be finding that, because you'll need one of those rods, whether that is the Fire Rod or Ice Rod. You're going to need both to get through all the dungeons. And Kyong now getting that Hype Cave that we were talking about with JohnRossums earlier.
Got a confirmation from chat that was the Fire Rod, and you're going to need that for more than Trinex. You're going to need that for Mothula and potentially Cold Stare.
Oh, this is already shaping up to be a very exciting one. JohnRossums avoiding the death that Kyong took there, but unfortunately just going to find those bombs and take the intentional death. So Leslie here, with only 3 hearts, green mail, and a hard mode seed, do you search for that heart piece, or maybe even that blue mail, or do you just dive right into Thieves Town? What are your thoughts?
That would be a very difficult Thieves Town dive, and you would probably see either a top level runner or someone who's trying to break a run of bad luck make that play. Then again, my luck in this tournament hasn't been that great of late, so I might pull a move like that just to say whatever. But I'd have to be ultra careful.
Yeah, I mean, there's really no margin for error there on blind, much less throughout the dungeon itself. Kyong looks to be doing some rupee farming here, while JohnRossums unfortunately getting hit by that Wall Master. Ooh, that's a tough one.
Yeah, what the Wall Master does is that when it grabs a hold of Link, you're taken back to the start of the dungeon. And yes, you can get grabbed out of holes that way. That has happened to runners that I've seen in tournaments past. So It is a thing that can definitely happen. Oh, and that's just rude. Get out of the doorway, you Gibdo!
Yeah, this is the real challenging part with those Gibdos in hard mode and only 3 hearts. You really can't afford to just tank that hit and move through.
Yeah, at that point, you really need to have a sword to knock them out of the way because you can't use wide button items in the doorway.
Right. I mean, if they had a sword here, that would be a different story. But without the sword, it's a lot trickier.
Piece of heart out of the digging game. Considering the flags are in.
Yeah, I mean, we see both runners now heading through the village of outcasts, just getting 10 arrows there out of the C-shaped room. I mean, I think that play, I know we talked about it being risky earlier, going in and fighting blind, but there's not too much available on the map right now.
Now, with the hammer, you do have access to get up towards Palace of Darkness. The question is, who makes that play first?
Well, I mean, Kyong does have the cash for it with right now at 233 rupees. JohnRossums a bit further behind at 101. You know, typically when you're playing inverted, unlike a standard or open or even retro mode seed, that money really comes into play early on. And we are going to see Kyong here making the play into Thieves Town with only 3 hearts in green mail. Ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be very exciting, very tense moment here.
Yeah, as a runner in this situation, your focus has to become razor sharp because you can ill afford to make a mistake or else you're taking a death and going back to the start of the dungeon, which quite frankly you really don't want to do.
Yeah, and especially with it being inverted mode, you know, this could be a required green mail 3 heart clear of Thieves Town, which, whew, let me tell you, that is not one that people are really going to get excited of. You know, you're going to be excited to do as a runner. It's very nerve-wracking. So good execution so far from both our runners, not taking any damage in through the early parts of Thieves Town. Ooh, and I spoke a little too soon. Kyong taking a death there, just an unfortunate sequence. One hit and then another, and just like that, we are back at the start there for Kyong, giving JohnRossums just the slightest of edges.
That's how quick it can go bad in a 3-heart Thieves Town on green mail. All it takes is 2 hits pretty much, and you're down for the count.
Yeah, so one thing I want to note here is, you know, you watch either Kyong or JohnRossums, and just look at how they're moving. This is not really the typical movement you'll see through Thieves Town as you would in a standard open mode. A lot more caution. Ooh, just as I'm saying that, JohnRossums unfortunately taking a death.
Yeah, that's a thing that can happen when you're doing a 3-heart dive of Thieves Town, is that since it doesn't take much, the deaths can pile up really fast.
Yeah, and JohnRossums is going to bail out. Maybe farming for money here, you think?
It's possible, but it's also possible that he could be making the play I thought of and just going into Palace of Darkness to see how many treasures you can get out of there. Problem is, if you don't have more than 110 rupees, you're not getting in, and then you need every 10 rupees as a buffer in case you get hit along the way.
Yeah, and we do know something about Pod, though, thanks to that hit we saw on Kyong's side, is there is something sharp in Pod, which for those who are experienced with the clues means that there is going to be a sword there.
And since you need at least level 2 sword to beat the game, picking one up early will really be helpful.
Yeah, especially because, again, hard mode means you only are going to get 3 swords. That 4th sword will go bye-bye once you've gotten all all three of your allowed upgrades.
I'd only read up a few things on hard mode, such as potions recovering a certain amount of hearts. So there's only 3 sword upgrades. Am I getting that right?
That is correct. Now there still are 4 placed in the seed, but once you have all 3, that 4th one will not be a sword for you. It'll turn into I'm not actually quite sure. I would need to check the documentation, but I believe it turns into a red rupee.
Yeah, I believe it turns into, based off of swordless steeds that I've seen, it'll turn into a green rupee that says 20.
Yes. And Kyong having a fairly effective way through the backside of Pod, although only at 1 heart, and just about to go through our room here with the horse fellows.
The horse heads can be tough, but if Kyong can get to the pots on the right side of each section leading up to Blind Cell, then that'll be 1 heart recovery in each. Gotta be careful, though.
And Kyong does look to have pulled it off. Meanwhile, JohnRossums checking Pyramid Ledge, and we're going to actually find the glove here. So great find for JohnRossums.
That is a major find, because with that in the mirror, Light World access has been achieved. So at this point, the seed has already been broken wide open in terms of locations. The question is, with all that open in front of you, where do you start?
Well, I assume if I'm sitting in JohnRossums' seat, the thing I'm hoping to find early on is either that 1 mail upgrade or potentially some heart containers to make life a little easier. The Kyong's execution here on blind will be crucial, though. If Kyong takes a death on blind, not sure if we'll see a second attempt.
Yeah, the major key is execution's got to be on point. But even with blind in the room, it's much easier than having to do the whole dungeon.
Oh, and unfortunately there, Kyong taking that death. Looked like they was doing pretty well for a fight with the hammer, but just a little bit of a misstep. It's unfortunate to see. You hope Kyong can recover here.
Yeah, the best thing you can do in this point is you it's up to the runner here. Do you try it again, knowing you're not going to have the positioning the second time around? Is that easier for you? Or do you back out and make another play elsewhere?
Yeah, it looks like Kyong is going to take that second option here, heading back up into the Skull Woods area. Meanwhile, JohnRossums is checking out what we've got in the Lost Woods, getting some magic pots there from the tree pool. So Leslie, I know you were saying earlier that the whole map's really open to JohnRossums now. What do you think the play is after the check here in the Lost Woods is finished up?
This one is shoot through Kakariko, because you've got 13 checks you can access right away in the village. Plus, if you get a bottle, you get another. And there's also the 2 checks at the library in the race game.
That makes sense to me. And guess what we just saw, folks, in Lumberjack Cave? Yes, that's right. We saw a sword. So the good news is we know where 2 of those swords are for this seed. The bad news is that one of these is behind AGA 1, which I'm sure our runners are not going to be very excited to find out.
Well, the good news about that is that doesn't necessarily bump AGA 1 up the order in terms of what dungeons you have to do. The bad news is that would have been much nicer to have been elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, especially knowing that the other sword is in Pod. Now, there are still 2 swords distributed somewhere else throughout the game here, but with 2 swords that early, it feels to me pretty likely that the other two are going to be seated much later in the game. So we may be on Master Sword or even Fighter Sword for quite a while.
That we could. And is Kyong making the South Shore Light World play? Assuming he got the gloves.
It appears so. JohnRossums getting the flute out of Blind's hut. That's a nice find, easy activation.
Much easier activation than finding it in Link's house in the Dark World.
It looks like not too much there in South Shore so far for Kyong. And JohnRossums does find that blue mail, and with an extra heart. That makes the entirety of Thieves Town now look a lot less scary. Do you think JohnRossums may think of going back and making that play now?
Not until after he's checked all of Kakariko and gotten some other stuff, because that stuff could make that even easier.
And we find our second glove there in the mini Moldworm cave. So Seed is very early with its gloves, and we'll have to see if Kyong commits now and goes and checks out the Ice Rod cave. So JohnRossums does have and we have another medallion there. I didn't catch it. Did you happen to see, was that Ether or Quake? It looks like, according to our tracker, that was a Quake there. So, very early medallion finds for JohnRossums here. JohnRossums also with a bit of a knowledge advantage because of that early lumberjack check, but doesn't know that there is a sword and pod, which is Kyong's real advantage right now. And JohnRossums does look to be doing the return of the everyone's favorite blacksmith Jeremiah, but getting a little stuck on the rocks, making his way through now though. While Kyong is fake flippering, and we'll see what the fake flippers have for us today. It looks like that cape is going to be on the ledge up there, so we know we're going to need that for that fire rod. All right, let's see what the hobo has today. And the hobo just got $5 for us. Kyong gonna keep on moving through here, checking out the rest of the sequence here. And JohnRossums doing one of the most dreaded tasks is the slow hammer pegs, but making good work of it despite lacking the boots for the nice little dash. And we do get the ice rod out of that, so we are with the cape actually, which Kyong now has. That's Trinex that we can fight. Unfortunately, JohnRossums does not know yet that the cape is there. So looks like Kyong is making his way over. Probably going to do those Kakariko checks that JohnRossums just completed. JohnRossums doing the looks like the purple chest and checking out the race game and saying, nope, don't want that. Off we go.
knows.
Yeah, both our runners are definitely having some wanting of a sword right now. I can imagine they're both hoping to grab one here, not knowing that the other knows where one of the swords is.
Well, fun fact, I actually had a seed once where I went 5 bosses swordless in the last tournament, so something like that can happen. Hopefully it doesn't, but yeah, that would not be fun.
Yeah, I mean, especially knowing that there is a sword in pod. Where in pod, though, could be a big determinant. It could be in a pretty inconvenient location where you may need to go in and go down and fight Helmasaur to get it. Could be in the Dark Maze. Could be Bowlock. We just don't know at this point where that sword is.
Right now, for the interim, the rudest possible place would be Bowlocked.
Definitely, because we have no indications whatsoever of where that bow might be. And there's Kyong seeing the thing that we saw earlier, that there is a sword on Lumberjack Cave. So Kyong now in possession of knowledge of where 2 swords are. JohnRossums, however, still only knows where 1 is. It's a nice bottle find. Hoping that Sick Kid does have something, so that check it doesn't come to waste. Although nobody ever squawked at a blue potion in hard mode. It could be a big lifesaver. While Kyong making his way to do the fire rod, get that fire rod from Bumper Cave.
There we go. Now we have fire.
Indeed we do. So Kyong looks to be heading to the right here, probably going to check out the graveyard ledge. Meanwhile, JohnRossums heading down and probably going to do some checks here after he warps over to the light world. All right, Lizzie, what do you think we're going to find here in the back of Escape? Those 3 chests.
Hopefully one of the 2 remaining swords, but barring that, could find Canis Damari, could find Hookshot. I'd personally like to see the bow or flippers here.
Well, I got news for you. We got some flippers.
That falls under the game knows.
Yeah, just could see it wanting flips there, and it provided. We're just a hook shot away from being able to complete Swamp Palace now. Of course, the Swamp Palace fight against Argus with just the hook shot and the hammer is not the most fun fight in the world. A lot of pause and unpause, but definitely doable, and definitely something that our runners would want to complete if they get that hook shot, since they're still pretty low on life.
Yeah, on the flip side, that's also what you have to do in a swordless situation.
Yep, and both these runners definitely capable of handling swordless. JohnRossums having some mini Moldworm trouble. Let's see. Ooh. Yeah, going back to bombs here. That, I think, is a smart play down to 1 heart. Meanwhile, Kyong gonna get that bombos from Blind's Hut. Folks, I just really want to stress here the real difficulty of this early opening. These are very top tier runners, and we've seen some real tough plays so far, but they are progressing fairly well for the difficulty of this early open.
So far, so good. Next question is, who's going to make the Death Mountain play first? The flute does give access to that for Dark Death Mountain. So we shall see.
Yeah, and with both runners having the Titan's Mitt too, that's and now with Kyong getting the blue mail, both have blue mail. So looks like JohnRossums is going to go through here and pick up the old man.
Now, the interesting thing about the old man in Inverted is that you're taking him on a bit of a Death Mountain tour. First the dark side of Death Mountain to the portal, then you have to bring him down to the cave, and I've actually taken a death doing that on Death Mountain, which starts you back where you picked him up.
Yeah, it's definitely not as simple as it is in a traditional standard or open mode because of the length that you have to move the old man across, and in hard mode too. With JohnRossums and Kyong both having blue mail, a little less concerning, but definitely something that you don't want to sleep on. And Kyong just finishing up these Kakariko checks. We'll see. Kyong does indeed find the fetch quest here in the library. And it looks like, yep, that won't happen. So we got that magic powder there. And ooh, well, you just look at that, Leslie. We have got boots on the old man. I'm sure JohnRossums is doing a little happy dance right now in his head.
Boots are always a good thing to find. Your movement goes up. With what you've got, you gain access to 3 checks with the library, the Bonk Rocks, the King's Tomb, and in Desert Palace, you don't have to worry about being locked out of the big key or small key. It also helps in the big tower, but we'll cross that bridge later.
Yeah, it's a big sigh of relief. And look at that, folks. JohnRossums here, just a short of 28 minutes in getting our first sword. And we do know that where 2 other swords are, so that is a big find for JohnRossums.
Absolutely. It's much easier to press B to launch an attack than constantly having to menu around for the best weapon possible.
Right, indeed it is. And the best thing, though, for JohnRossums probably right now is thinking, oh, I can do this nice little super speed here. Just dashing around Death Mountain. Look at that. Look at him go. Very fast guy.
Absolutely. Spin speed is a Japanese 1.0 exclusive glitch, where as you release the sword spin, if you press the A button on the next frame and you get it right, you'll launch in that super speed state. Now, what happens in that state is you're moving ultra fast, but you can't use your sword until you dash. But you lose it if you get hit, so be careful.
Yeah, it really can gain you some good time there on especially Death Mountain, because you've got so far to walk and you have ladders that you can activate on. And just going to be 5 rupees and the arrows there in the Super Bunny Cave. Meanwhile, Kyong has got that purple chest. Going to take it around Hyrule.
Purple chest has always been one of the more intriguing pickups, because I've seen seeds in version 30 where you'll see a random hint that says in a chest requiring a specialist to unlock, which refers to purple chest. And that could be any number of items, really. Depends on the seed, too.
Yeah, I mean, you have no clue there, and it looks like Bombos will be what opens Turtle Rock for us. Now, obviously, in inverted mode, Turtle Rock a little easier to get into because there are a number of different ways to get in now with using the mirror. But opening up the front door here, it's JohnRossums, so we'll be able to get that hint. And Kyong just getting the piece of heart that we know was there from the locked chest.
Well, the hint's always good to get, but this way you can jump right down to Laser Bridge, and if you're in an inverted mode seed and in go mode, you can jump right to Laser Bridge, potentially get the big key there, and a small key, literally just make that left turn for the boss, and really shorten Turtle Rock considerably.
Yeah, it takes Turtle Rock from a dungeon where there's a lot of time involved and a lot of hazard to one you can complete, as you're saying, very quickly. JohnRossums, though, not getting the hint he was probably looking for there, just a hint saying, "Oh, we do see silver arrows." Now, this being hard mode, silver arrows are not going to be as useful as they are in a normal difficulty, but will make that Ganon fight easier at the very least.
Absolutely. Silvers really make a Ganon fight easier, and if you take the swords away and go into swordless, the silvers are basically an essential, because I've even heard top runners taking over 7 minutes doing silverless on swordless, so yeah.
Yeah, that's the...
even worse than
fun.
silverless Master Sword, I might add, and I had a seed with that too.
Yeah, so JohnRossums, as we were talking earlier, going to take the back entrance into TR here. Unfortunately, does not have the hook shot or the red cane, so can't get in through the big chest. We'll have to go the other way around, but we'll see what we find here. It does look like, however, we found death. Death has come for JohnRossums in Turtle Rock. Those lasers are just a real tough thing to get around. With only 5 hearts.
Those lasers hurt. And that particular door that you enter in, those first 3 lasers start firing if you're facing towards them. The other 2 fire when you're facing away from them. So you gotta be careful. That goes without saying in inverted mode, but especially here.
Yeah, meanwhile, Kyong, if this is... Does this look like an Ice Palace play to you, Leslie? It looks like Ice Palace to me here. It's a bit of a surprise, I would say, no?
Not a terrible play, because you have the means to get in. Plus, by utilizing Ice Palace Bomb Jump, you can still beat the dungeon, even if you were meant to do so with the Cane of Samaria.
Yeah, although... Here's Kyong making us both look foolish. In fact, that was not the play. It is just heading up to do the Zora checks. And Catfish today. Let's see if that grumpy fish has got anything for us. I'm on the edge of my seat. How about you, Leslie?
Always on the edge of my seat with Catfish, because it's either something good or I'm throwing something else in the circle to voice my displeasure.
Well, Kyong did not throw anything else in the circle to voice his displeasure, but I'm sure not very happy to find 10 arrows there. And JohnRossums getting a heart piece from the vanilla big key chest in Turtle Rock.
Might as well get as many of those as you can, especially when you're low on health.
Yeah, I mean, in hard mode, I don't think anyone turns their nose up at a piece of heart find. That could be the difference between survival and not survival. And look at that, we have a sword at Zora. So, ladies and gentlemen, that means we know the location of all 4 swords now. We have got a sword at Zora, a sword at Spectacle Rock, a sword in Pod, and a sword at Aghanim. So because of that, that sword at Aghanim may not come into play.
That's always good to know. That for once, King Zora, not a scam.
Yep, and Kyong immediately taking advantage and going and fighting blind. I like the confidence here in the blind now with the sword. right, folks, this is going to be an exciting fight here. A non-scripted blind for Kyong. There we go. 1 hit, 2, 3. All right, so got through that with just 1 heart of loss. And JohnRossums on their side, they're going to find the lamp. So that agate play is now open.
Now, the interesting thing in inverted is that Agate 1 is up Ganon's tower, or where it would be. So that kind of changes your order of operations a little bit, whereas coming out of the Ganon's tower side, you're now at Hyrule Castle, and you can either go right back in, or you just go to fight the pig. So now you're, like I said, your order of operations kind of changed up. Agate 1 kind of moves up to before Ganon's tower if you're trying to route optimally.
Yeah, and I do want to give Kyong a nice shout out there. I got in a little bit of trouble with the blind fight, but kept us cool and used that potion for safety and got out with blind down. So that will give Kyong our first blood, as it will, in terms of clearing dungeons.
Also our first blood in terms of beating bosses, same difference, but even so, to do so with that many hearts, that's impressive.
Yeah, I certainly don't think I could have pulled that off. So a tip of the hat there to Kyong, who is now making the Skull Woods play with that fire rod in hand. So we are going to see a Mothula fight, also with very, very low hearts and no real safeties here because that potion has been used. So another exciting moment while JohnRossums is going through Tower Hera. Folks, if you want to see differentiation here between your runners and where they're going, this is the match for you. We've got a lot of divergence.
Divergence is always fun. I had a match earlier this week that had divergence early and often, and that really made things interesting. Heck, it was even in my group, too. So, yeah, divergence is a good thing. Now, as for Kyong's health situation, this is very doable. I have beaten, and I know because I've beaten Mothula under these circumstances myself. However, I did have a blue potion. But that notwithstanding, like I said, it's doable.
And JohnRossums is getting the hint there in Tower Hera. A unique item requires a bomb and a shovel out of the big chest after a very well-executed bomb jump. A little round of applause there for JohnRossums on a bomb jump that can be a little scary.
Yeah, it is. It's one I haven't learned yet. By the way, I'm just wondering if the shovel's for burying all the community hints.
Yeah, so far it's not really come. Okay, so Kyong coming up against Mothula. At the same time, we have JohnRossums fighting Moldorm. This is a split-screen boss adventure.
These are always fun.
Oh, JohnRossums unfortunately taken the Trolldorm hit down below. So that's Trolldorm 1, JohnRossums 0. Let's see if he can even it up. And Kyong, great fight against Mothula. Gets down to 2 hearts, but clutches it out. Great job.
Nicely done. Knew it. Well, I believed it could be done, and he got it done. Nicely done.
And JohnRossums taking down Moldorm does not let him get any satisfaction there. Has his revenge. That'll even us up there for Trolldorm and see if Kyong will also have good luck, or if Moldorm will have the victory today.
Nicely done. And the other thing about beating Moldorm is that JohnRossums is now in possession of the green pendant. So now the question is, what item will Sahasrahla reward him with?
Oh, I'm thinking here, we've seen some pretty interesting early items. I think we're going to see an early bow out of it.
Bow would be a real good case scenario out of it, because that'll allow to finish Eastern and Pod.
Meanwhile, JohnRossums is checking the Turtle Rock Laser Bridge. A little scary without an upgraded. Taking a fall there. but it has a good number of hearts. So I don't know if it's that scary. I was thinking JohnRossums still was at only 4 or 5 hearts, but in fact, actually looking pretty good on the heart side right now.
Now, John did get a heart container in the first chest there, so that'll help things considerably. But no Cane of Samaria means bye-bye.
Yeah, no fire rod either.
Well, you gotta get the cape for that. And he has
Oh, that's true. That's true. No cape. Yeah.
Also, to answer a question I saw in chat, this is race 3 between Keon and John. The way race 3 works is that the 2 settings are picked by the 2 runners, and then each runner has a veto, so they have the ability to veto one of the options.
Yeah, Kyong currently returning the old man, while JohnRossums, I think, is going to try to hover this, folks. Ooh, are you excited? This is exciting.
Now, I'll be honest, I've never been able to pull this off. Hats off to those that are able to pull this off consistently, and yes, I am thinking of Andy when I say that, because
the hover
that's the
god.
first person that comes to mind.
Yeah, unfortunately, JohnRossums, good effort on it, but can't quite get it. So going to bail out here and just head back over to the light world.
Yeah, that was a good effort. Just came up short.
Yeah, no, you love seeing people try it, because you never know. It just might be the day that you finally got those inputs down, and you suddenly go over there, and bam, it's the hook shot, or a sword, or something you really were looking for.
Yeah, that's when a sequence break really pays off. When they don't pay off, you're wondering, why did I do that?
Yeah, if it was one that took some skill to accomplish, maybe you can pat yourself on the back and say, all right, well, I got that hover in, or that a tricky bomb jump, or what have you. But yeah, when it doesn't pay off, you feel a little deflated. And Kyong getting that master sword, so we're at 2 swords for Kyong, 1 for JohnRossums. Curious, where do you think Kyong's gonna head now? Do you think after they finish up Tower Hera, we're gonna see the same play over to Laser Bridge?
It's possible, but at this point with the Master Sword, I mean, you could take Aga 1 out now, so you're starting in the light world at Hyrule Castle with the mirror. Or, I mean, it depends on the runner, really.
Yeah, definitely. Looks like gonna go and maybe check out Turtle Rock first before going and playing around with Tower of Hera. Meanwhile, JohnRossums gonna see what the uncle has. Uncle has some love for our runner. So that's nice to find.
Nicely done by Keong to get out of the way of those Lionels with 1 heart. Only weapons that Keong have at present that'll damage Lionels will be a spin attack or a hammer. That's it.
Yeah, the Lionels in inverted mode in particular are especially scary. Now Kyong has a little more than the bare minimum 3 hearts, and it's got that blue mail, but you could easily be up here with just the fighter sword, the hammer, green mail, 3 hearts. So some excellent job dodging those.
Yeah, very well done. I mean, but even more scary than that, try Lionel's and Randomizer. Then you're basically asking for Zelda 3 to step in for like Zelda 1 and have an old-fashioned Lionel death.
Yeah, the Randomizer can be real fun there. Meanwhile, JohnRossums making his way through the escape. No big finds so far, but we'll see what we find. Maybe the bow here?
That's possible. But then again, this would also be a good play to do after Aga 1, because you're right here, for routing purposes.
Very true.
But yeah, in inverted, there's a number of ways to route AGA1 in. There's not just one particular way. So it's definitely something to keep in mind. If you're playing a typical seed, then AGA1 really gets routed in 2 places. If you need it earlier for a required item or Dark World access, or after Ganon's Tower, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and Kyong, we'll get those silvers, so both our runners are going to have an easier time with fighting Ganon today.
John did pick up a bug net out of Zelda's cell and is making a full-on sprint to the back of the escape. Well, I say that and he runs into the dirt.
Yeah, trying to grab those fairies, I suppose, with that new bug net. Looks like the bag is only going to have $20, but we do know something else that is in Escape that JohnRossums has not gotten, and that would be those flippers. So we a happy sight for him in just a few seconds here.
Yep. The swim fins could be helpful. I mean, they could also be hinting at something really trolly, like Hookshot in Vanilla Dungeon.
Oh, don't put that evil on our runners, Leslie. We don't want to have them to go through and do that.
Yep, that's something I hate seeing, but then again, I've seen enough vanilla/French vanilla so far in the tournament.
Very true.
Experience it, so I know it can happen.
Yeah, and Kyong also with a great bomb jump there for the Tower Hera big chest. Alright folks, here is the second Moldworm fight of the 4 we'll see today, and see how Kyong does. Oh! Moldworm just barely hitting him there. So that's 2 for Moldworm, 1 for our runners. See if Kyong can even it up.
What happened there is Kyong was trying to go for a spin slash with the Master Sword, which does the same amount of damage as the hammer. Problem is, it wasn't facing the right way, so instead of a sword poke, got a bot.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, but does get the retaliation here. Nice recovery, and has that green pendant. So I assume pretty soon we will see what that green pendant has to hold for us, because the one area the runners have not really checked out yet is the area around Srahashla and Pod and Eastern. So imagine we'll be seeing that pretty soon.
I'm sure we will be, but we got a King's Tomb.
Yeah, unfortunately not much there, but Kyong gonna check out what we've got over in Paradox Cave.
John's going for a quick swim over to the witch's hut.
Yep, and going through to probably, I would guess, all the way to Zora. That's going to pay off very well for him because he'll get his Master Sword. And both our runners, despite finding the swords in different locations, or getting the swords in different order, will be at the same sword level.
Yep, and that will definitely be helpful for our runners.
Yeah, with Kyong finding the lamp, I have to say, folks, if you were expecting some fun, verted, hard mode, dark rooms today, we won't be having that, but, still a lot of great inverted mode action. With us about the 50-minute mark, Leslie, looking at where our runners are at, would you rather be in Kyong or John's seat right now?
That is a very good question, because neither runner has really broken through to find that one item that's needed to really push the ledger in this seed to where they can really blow it wide open. I mean, sure, it's great they got all these checks open and all, but they still need certain items to beat the dungeons. Like in Inverted, you have to have the Book of Medora to get into Desert. There is no backdoor.
Yeah, I mean, maybe give a slight edge to Kyong simply because Kyong has got that Fire Rod and the Thieves' Town and Skull Woods clears, but I mean, it's definitely not an overwhelming favorite. Maybe a couple minutes at best.
Yeah, John really is going to want to make the play down to Lake Hylia very soon.
We see Kyong gonna head through and check out Mimic Cave. Unfortunately, as we know, Mimic Cave not gonna hold a lot, but need to get that check out of the way early.
Yep, we got a hint on that on a sword being in Palace of Darkness, Jay Coker, but with 14 checks in that dungeon, it's hard to really gauge where it could be.
Yeah, that sword and pod is a bit of a tease because it could be bow locked for all we know, which is not going to help our runners. Kyong looks to be attempting to bomb jump here, and does get it, and only getting a small key out of it though.
Well, not the worst thing you could get out of that. Could have been a single rupee.
Very true, and John appears to be pushing his metaphorical chips into the Aga 1 pile here. I think this is a great play if you know, as John knows, that there is going to be a sword on Lumberjacks. You don't have, you know you're going to need to do Aga 1 at some point, and the other checks you have left, you've got a pod that you can't finish, an Eastern you can't finish. So yeah, I like this call here, simply just to maybe give yourself a little time to think and just get Aga 1 out of the way.
Yeah, it's also good to, like I said earlier, you're now going to start, if you save quit in the light world, you're now at Hyrule Castle by default, so that's not a bad thing.
No, it can definitely
give you access.
Exactly. Now, Kyong's playthrough TR is a little bit faster than JohnRossums, simply because Kyong's got that fire rod and was able to pull off the bomb jump. JohnRossums most likely going to have to go back and check some of these areas that we've already seen Kyong get.
Meanwhile, looks like John having some trouble with the guards, and does clear him. What's the hint? Okay, this is a money cave all of a sudden. A Zelda 1 money cave, that is. Good strategy.
Yeah, I'm loving the boomerang strat that Kyong's using for the chain chomp. Very well executed. And that'll finish off Turtle Rock there, from that entrance at least.
So now we get into one of the questions of the seed. How many blue balls in the Aga 1 phase? Now, the RNG could be anything in the vanilla game, but in a randomizer, it's set to be one particular value for everyone playing the seed.
Yeah, it's nice because I know if you know, we have folks here today with us this afternoon, evening, morning, wherever it is. If you're No Major Glitches follower, you'll know that this can really be a run differentiator in No Major Glitches because that is different for each runner. But here, whatever JohnRossums gets will be the same thing Kyong will have. So let's see. I'm gonna go with 2 blue balls. What about you, Leslie?
I'm gonna say 3. Well, then again, the caveat there is that the execution of both runners has to be the same. Like, if you miss a red one, you could get an extra blue one.
All right, well, there's one.
Also worth noting that every 5th shot will be a lightning attack, and then the next shot after that is guaranteed red. Your next 3 are 50-50 to be red or blue.
All right. So I got my second one, and right there's our third. So I'm already out. Leslie, you gotta hope here that Ag is feeling nice and doesn't give us any more blue balls.
Well, then again, I had a scene once where we had like 4 or 5, and that was annoying enough.
Ooh. All right, and it does look like 3 was the correct guess. So Leslie, you win. I think everyone's undying praise and adulation for your Agawan guessing skills.
That was just a good guess, and it looks like Keon's making the same play.
I think we finally are seeing the play that I talked about maybe 5-10 minutes ago, the move over to the pod eastern area. A lot of checks open there, and no one is checked. Oh, well, JohnRossums, okay, gonna use the flute head over there. Probably a good call.
Now, normally in your typical seed, you would optimally you'd be mirroring from Dark World to Light World for the best routing into Pod and Eastern. While that same philosophy does apply in Inverted to Away, you're doing it from Light to Dark.
Yeah, it's a little. It just feels a little different for those at home who are watching who have not yet played an Inverted seed, or this is their first Inverted match. You know, you do it, and it's like. You know, it's almost like you put your shirt on backwards. You're like, man, this feels sort of weird, but it seems like I did the right thing. And so far, nothing in the early chest in Eastern, just a compass. Now, Leslie, we saw JohnRossums immediately go towards the Pod Eastern area, did not even consider going to Lumberjack. What do you think on that? Do you think maybe you should have gone and gotten that tempered sword?
I might have gone for it just to get it out of the way, and because there's also a possibility you could have gotten hacked and had that sword be somewhere you can't get.
Yeah, now for Kyong, this is a little bit different because Kyong does know that there is a sword in Pod, whereas JohnRossums doesn't have that. We might see the same play here, but for different reasons. And Eastern so far not had anything too exciting. But guess what, folks? We just learned that there is some cash in Spike Cave. So for those out there in Hyrule who are a little short on money, just head through Spike Cave and you'll have a little more in your pockets.
Yeah, but that also takes one of the more annoying checks out of the pool. Because Spike Cave, that can be tough. Last fall, I had a tournament race where I got hecked by that location because I didn't think it would be it. Turns out it was.
Yeah, it's a difficult one to route in. I feel like unless you commit to doing it right after Tower of Hera, there's no real logical spot to throw that one in.
Well, that as well as the Dark Death Mountain shenanigans that happen. Well, in a typical seed.
Yeah. All right, let's see what we're going to get here from Kyong. The escape checks. That makes a lot of sense, actually, considering that JohnRossums has done those, but Kyong has not. Unfortunately, there's not going to be too much other than that bug net, which you never know. There could be a fairy that saves the day for one of these runners.
So Eastern wasn't the solution. So John's gonna try the other side of the coin. Might want to head to Stahashula's hut first. That's just me.
Yeah, is going to go and get, unfortunately, only $5 from Stahashula. Getting a little cheap these days. I feel like that's worth a little more than $5. And the closet, however, a little more lucrative. We've got a medallion, a single arrow, and 20 bucks. So Sarashalo's holding out on us a little bit.
Now, the good news is, with all 3 medallions, is that you've got a variety of offensive options at your disposal, and you don't have to worry about being denied entry to Misery Mire or Turtle Rock if you don't know what those are. You actually do know what those are, and while Ether's not it, there's still some very helpful uses for Ether throughout the game. Same with Quake.
Yeah, definitely. Now, neither runner here is going to need to do the pod basement dark, but if you had to, that is a great spot to pull one of those out in that turtle room.
So what's the first check in pod?
Well, we got a key, so the good news is we are not bow locked today.
Now, another thing that could happen in pod when you do this check is that you could get an item that has progression, which forces you to go out, get the bow behind that or some other progression that's behind that item's progression, and by that token you would have a logically required double dip of Palace of Darkness.
Ooh, yeah, not a fun one. Pod is one of those dungeons where you just hope everything goes right. It's a real pain if you need to go back, or one time, or even potentially 2 times.
Oh, speaking of, there was a weekly seed, and some of you might remember this one, where this logic mandated a Palace of Darkness triple dip.
Oh my.
Yeah. Now, for those who could hover, you were able to cut one of those dips out.
And while we did talk earlier about this being bow locked, I think JohnRossums is going to try for the bottle glitch here. So taking some little intentional damage. Don't forget to open up the entrance, though. There you go, John. And this glitch it's fairly recently discovered, can let you get past the mimics here without needing the bow. Now, you still need the bow to clear the dungeon, but you can at least get to these 2 chests without it. And there we go. Perfectly executed. Just going to move the last green one off there, and off we go. John.
Alright. I do believe that... Yep, nicely done. Haven't really seen that in action myself, so I didn't really have an understanding of how it worked, but now that I've seen it, just maybe. Okay.
Yeah, for you folks at home, so the execution of that is not too tricky, as you saw John do. Really all you need is a potion and bombs. And all you'll need to do is drink that potion while you walk left, and just sort of hug that right wall, and you'll be able to scroll the screen in the Mimic Room, and that'll let you move on. So for folks out there who haven't tried it before and want to learn it, hopefully that's a good little tutorial, and you can maybe integrate that into your next playthrough. Oh, we're gonna get the hammery jump from John. Very nice. I like the confidence here, especially having that big key from the potion glitch.
Now, the tricky part about Hammer Yump, the back part of that name taken from SMW, for the who's not in the know, is that the setup for the bomb and Link's placement both have to be pixel perfect. So it's a double pixel perfect trick. Not an easy one to do, as I've seen a number of runners have trouble with it. And, well, that's one of the to learn lists, and hey, that sword was in the Dark Maze.
It was. So with that, that last sword over in the that we're actually seeing Kyong head for will no longer be anything that useful for John. So both our runners going to be on the tempered sword here for the rest of the match. And there's the book. Oh, big find for JohnRossums. And with that, as John makes his way through the last little bit of pod here, although I believe this is just going to be a small key, so Yeah, I think John realizing that and just going to save quit out. Leslie, let's look at where our runners stand in terms of items. So we don't have the hook shot, we don't have the bow, but with John finding the book, I believe those are the only two items that we're really searching for now.
Yeah, now with the book, I'm thinking the play has to be desert, because there's got to be something there that moves this along.
Yeah, there's just not very much left on the board. I guess I'd hate to say it, but it could be Ice Palace. Could be that what you said earlier. Could be that vanilla hookshot. But yeah, I agree. Not a lot of plays left.
And seeing John go for it means we're not going to wait long to find out.
Yep, and Kyung just filling that heart meter up. So now both our runners at about the same in terms of health. I'm sure that makes Kyung feel a little more confident, a little more. And Kyung does get the powder. Not sure if this thinking here is go right into Magic Bat, I would assume. But I don't know, going for the fetch quest item here. What do you think about that, Leslie?
I actually like going for the Magic Bat right away because it does take that off the table. So, yeah, you could get something good here, but even if you don't, you still got one heck of a safety item.
Indeed, definitely not one that you kind of go, wow, not gonna really help out. And now it is hard mode, but okay, only getting 10 arrows. Misery Mire, big key, and some cash is firelocked in Misery Mire, so that means it's a 50-50 chance that's a cutscene room. Cutscene room, of course, being the room that you've got to light all the torches and you wait for the floor to rumble, and it takes a little bit to get through.
Yep, that would also be the vanilla big key location in Misery Mire. But that hint is a great one for Mire because it allows you to narrow down where it is. If you see nothing of value in the fire-locked part of Mire, you can just skip it altogether.
That's true. And, thinking about this now, Mire, even though we don't have the Canis Maria, which earlier, I'm sorry we missed that on the list of items we need, so we need Hookshot, Bow, and Canis Maria, but could be that is locked in Misery Mire. Now, we can't say that for sure, but certainly is possible. And Kyong making the play into Ice Palace. We'll have to see what awaits here. A bow and the piece of heart require the red bomb. Well, folks, that's a pretty big hint.
Yeah, a hint like that means you're pretty much going right for the red crystals as soon as you can get them, so you can get that bow.
Yeah, and Leslie, I fortunately didn't catch which are our red crystal dungeons today.
It looks like, I'm trying to read this on the tracker, it looks like one of them is, no, I can't really get a good look at it. Swamp and Skull Woods.
Okay, so Kyong already has a little advantage there, already having put out Skull Woods. Swamp, though, that does mean that the bow is going to have to come after we get the hookshot.
Sounds about right. Now, John also using the Ice Rod in addition to Tempered Sword spins to take down the Land Mullahs. Not a bad strat.
I like that.
The Ice Rod blasts are a bit on the slow side.
Yeah, I feel like the Ice Rod, it gets a bad rap. People think it's just good for Trinex, but we just saw there a little bit of an unconventional use. Kyung setting up the Ice Palace bomb jump, gets it first time. Great job.
Always feels good to get that first time. And there's a reason I've been practicing that lately, because I kind of fell off the track with it a bit, so I figured I'd just practice it. Practice really does make perfect.
Indeed. Bombo's tablet today, not having too much, unfortunately, for John Ross. Well, there's a graveyard legend. Now this is another difficult bomb jump here for Kyung. This is if it's not pixel perfect, I believe it's 1 or 2 pixels.
2 pixels, yeah. They call this the reverse. I believe, now chat, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I believe this is known as the reverse Ice Palace bomb jump. And he nailed it perfectly.
Yeah, meanwhile, JohnRossums is going to go through Meyer. So we talked a little earlier about there potentially being items here. We'll see if this pays off for JohnRossums.
One thing to note is that if you don't have hook shot, you can still get it by you doing the bonk that John did. And as a result of that, you're in the dungeon. Okay, that mushroom... Okay, that bunny portal sprite on Keon's, that kind of made me chuckle.
Yeah, I'm gonna give a lot of credit to our sprite developers who did a great job on a lot of those bunnies. They always make me laugh too.
Yeah, those have always been worth a good chuckle.
That's my favorite part. Every time we see a new sprite ad, and I just want to know what's the bunnies. Meanwhile, JohnRossums not having very good luck so far in Misery Mire, just getting a whole lot of small.
Well, he's not going to be able to finish the dungeon unless he finds the Cane of Samaria here.
Yeah, and it's only 2 items here. It's probably not good odds, but
especially since we know that one of them's rupees.
Yeah, it's not great, but we are gonna see here, all of the checks except for the very, very last one. So you never know. Could still be here.
I don't think John saw the hint for this, so...
I don't either.
Yeah, so we're about to find out the order. The order's pre-big cutscene, big 20, and, yeah. And you just gotta do it the slow way.
Yeah, still does not have that fire rod, which I know we mentioned that a little and said, that was a little advantage for Kyong, but not a huge one. It's starting to become bigger.
Yep, miss something small in this randomizer and you can get punished very easily, and I've seen it happen.
Well, folks, we will not be seeing the left side swamp check because all that's over there are some rupees.
Yep, 2 cash stashes, so 4 items left in play in swamp, and the left side is out.
Yeah, so far, Ice Palace not really paying off either. And let me interrupt myself there. We just found the hook shot, and it was in fact in Misery Mire. Huge swing of events there for JohnRossums. You gotta like where he's at now.
That's definitely a big pickup. I'm thinking his next play is probably going to be Swamp Palace.
Yep, heading right there, straight beeline.
Yep, I was just thinking the same thing, Jacob. This is looking like a Mire double dip.
Yeah, especially with us having gone through Ice Palace and not found the Cane of Samaria, there's not a lot of places left it could be. I'm guessing that is going to be probably maybe somewhere in Eastern, somewhere in Pod.
Yeah, Eastern on the bosses in Eastern or Pod would probably be the more optimal routing play, Because if Kinesamaria is in Swamp, that's going to take John away from getting the Fire Rod out of Lake Hylia. Well, rather the Cape out of Lake Hylia, and then the Fire Rod off of Cape Cave.
Yeah, if you're rooting for JohnRossums right now, what you want to see is you want to see something that points him towards Ice Palace, so he can go find that cape. And Kyong gonna do the Spike Cave, as we know. There's not gonna be much there, unfortunately. Now, while the Blue Cane doesn't give you invincibility in hard mode, it does still give you invincibility in Spike Cave, just because otherwise it's kind of tricky to get through there.
That is a nice feature because, oh boy, that is not a fun place to try and tank.
No, definitely not. You would need quite a number of potions.
As well as at least 15 hearts. 14 if your movement's on point.
So one thing I'm curious about here is I wonder if... I know I said I liked the idea of Red Cane over there in Pod or Eastern, but we could still find it in Swamp, which... considering the light, as long as it's not in the back of Swamp, if it's right here, which it is, that means there is not a required double dip of Mire. And did JohnRossums get that hint about the bow?
I believe he might have. So
if so, yeah. We are perilously... I mean, we, the audience, are in no mode. Our runners, unfortunately, are not, because the knowledge is split between the two of them. But we are extremely close now, folks. Oh, and chat is pointing out it is sort of a pick your poison. You either have to double dip Mire or double dip Swamp. Leslie, which one would you rather double dip?
Well, to be fair, I'd rather double dip neither of them, but in this hypothetical, I will say Mire, because with Swamp, you have to drain the water twice on a double dip. Mire, you only have to open it once.
Yeah, I think Mire ends up being the slightly faster one. And Kyong is going to be making these same pod checks that we've already seen from JohnRossums. Unfortunately, won't be even finding the John. This will pretty much be a bust for him.
It will be, as John is coming up on the Argus fight, which with Tempered Sword is an easier battle than you would say Master Sword or less.
Yeah, and having a great time of it so far. Excellent job with the hook shot. Very good, buffering there of the, paw or hook shot, swing, and very, very quick takedown there. Great job, JohnRossums.
Yep, and it looks like he's going to Ice Rod strats for phase 2, which... Oh, and he got the one cycle with the Ice Rod strats. Nicely done.
Exactly, that's exactly what I'm talking about there. It was a well-executed fight, so give him a little round of applause there, folks. All right, John, are you going to head over to Ice Palace? Ooh, no, it looks like we're going to head back to Mire, but... that's actually not a bad play here, because Mire is completable, it's clearable, and can can definitely help out. But bailing out now, and we're gonna see Ice Palace. So interesting. John was thinking doing Mire, and now has noped out.
Perhaps a change of mind,
Maybe, but. Not going to have Fire Rod at all for Ice Palace here, so a bit of a disadvantage compared to Kyong.
It's still doable with Bombos, but it's a bit slower.
Yeah, and John did get that hint there about the bow. Doesn't know where fire. Well, I think John has seen fire right up on that ledge. Is that correct? Well, regardless, I don't believe John knows that the cape is on the Lake Hylia Island, so still cannot say that John is in no mode.
Now, an interesting strategy with these penguin enemies that's worth bringing up now, and this is really good if you don't have Tempered Sword, is that if you have the Quake Medallion, you use the Quake Medallion, and if they haven't jumped, then they're down in one hit. One of the many cool uses you can do with the medallions. And there are enemies you can take out with Ether quickly in one hit as well.
Yeah, that's a good thing to point out, though, is especially if you're coming in here with Master Sword or God forbid Fighter Sword, that can be a big help. And John trying to stop the Ice Palace bomb jump. Let's see there. Okay, it looks like he has it. Yeah, there we go. Second try.
I can't tell you the amount of times I've tried to line this up only to just hold left a hair too long and just slip off.
I think it's happened to everybody, even the best of us. So JohnRossums very nice with the pen gators.
Yep, the bowling room, and he struck him down. The hook shot turned out it was in Misery Mire. Pretty dirty place for it, because knowing that, you had to essentially choose your double dip between that or Swamp Palace. Not a fun predicament. Hard to say on that from chat, as it depends on the runners as to when they dive into certain dungeons. And yes, it is possible, but that's one of the ways in which Rando can be trolling. You could be avoiding it for something, yet, yeah, things can happen.
Yeah, I absolutely agree there. You just never know how this will play out until you're pretty deep into it.
Right, you are on that, and I will say this much. Usually when I'm into it, I'm like, okay, I could have done so many things better. I just have to hope for the best. Nope.
Yeah, the post-analysis is always much more interesting than you give yourself credit for. Going, oh yeah, that's right, I could have done this. So obviously, as always, we will try to get our runners in here for an interview. No guarantees, but hopefully we'll be able to do that and see what their thoughts were throughout this seed.
Actually, the interesting thing about the Canis Samaria placement is that it was in the southern chest and Swamp Palace, so it actually wasn't locked by the hook shot explicitly, but there was no way you were going to be able to go without having to double dip either Mire or Swamp. There was just no way around it.
Yeah, definitely an interesting little side note about that. You don't typically see a seed that sort of is saying, right, you get to pick who you double dip. It's kind of a unique thing. I kind of like it.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, but at the same time, the seed picked a couple of trolley dungeons for that end.
Oh, absolutely. And we, while JohnRossums is going here through Ice Palace, Kyong is going through Desert. You gotta wonder when it's two things is, how long until Kyong checks out Meyer? I would assume right here after Desert. And is John going to remember to go and check that Lake Hylia Island after finishing up Ice Palace? I sure hope so.
Yeah, because that would be one of those instances of missing a certain check and having it come back to really punish you.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I would say if, given where we are in the seed and how things have progressed, that check at the Lake Hylia Island is a must check right now for John, because if he does not do that, just thinking about where we are, Kyong already having 4 dungeons cleared, and potentially being in, at the very least, no mode in a couple minutes here, it would be a big deficit for John to come back from.
Then again, the way I see it, there's no deficit that is insurmountable, because it is.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen this before in real life, and I mean, let's just go back to 2004. Everybody thought that American League Championship Series was over and that the Yankees were moving on to the World Series. That's sure as heck not how it happened.
No, I mean, we've seen many exciting last-minute plays here. I've actually seen a seed where someone took a death on Aga 2, and it turned a race that was pretty one-sided up until then into a very close finish, and the runner who was behind heading into GT ended up pulling it out. So there's never any lead that's too safe.
Yeah, it looks like John's heading back to finish off the line. I mean, I can't blame him because he's got to get it done, but unfortunately, this is not the play. Chat's yelling at him to go to Lake Island, and I don't blame them.
Oh, I mean, so John is still okay here. If the play is to immediately then go check out the Lake Hylia Island, but I would think this is an intentional skip here. It's a very weird route to go and do Thieves Town and then not go do Lake Hylia Island, especially with it so close.
Yeah, but now I'm confused as to exactly where in the heck he's going, unless he wasn't able to get blind upstairs.
He wasn't. I don't believe he'd gotten to this part. He had died earlier and backed out of the dungeon.
Oh, okay, that explains it. But that's still a couple minutes of time invested.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you run the numbers, this sequence might make sense. You've got a lot more chests in Thieves Town. It was open very early. Unfortunately, not the right play here, but I think it can be justified if you look at the numbers. And Shad is asking if John has already checked Hobo. I don't believe so.
Yeah, I don't think he's done that particular check either.
Yeah, which is what makes me think this is an intentional play. It's not I just forgot. But, yeah, we'll see how long it takes, because this is a big deciding moment in this seed.
Certainly is. And it's one that, see how it plays out, but the blind fight is much more manageable than earlier. And that might have had something to do with it.
Oh, I mean, I think that definitely entered. It was his logic on this was saying, look, if I try to fight blind again with, I believe it was 5 hearts in green mail, it's just not going to happen. So coming back now with a sword, and not just a sword, but an upgraded sword, a lot more hearts, blue mail, this should be no problem.
Now, Kyong is is on the path for the big key, and then eventually the hook shot. And, yeah, winter's not such a great time to chill if you live in the cold weather states or regions.
No, definitely not. And John, as we predicted, great blind fight there. Just marvelous execution. I don't think I saw any hits taken, and gets that red pendant. But John, buddy, you go to Lake Hylia. No. Come
Well, I
on.
will say this, in terms of hitting the perfect blind execution, that was about as flawless as it gets.
John is not heading to Lake Hylia. I'm not quite. I mean, is this a sick kid check? Has John checked sick kid? I don't think so.
No, this is looking like a blind pedestal pull. Possibly.
No, I mean heading south here, and Kyong does get the hook shot, so very close to no mode for Kyong. Once he gets that red cane in swamp, knowing that having already gotten the hint about Bo, that will be no mode for Kyong. But still having 5 dungeons left to clear for both our runners here. It's still anyone's game.
Well, fair point. They're not able to do the blind ped pull. Thought I saw 30 pennants lit up. Oopsie. Also, Canis Samaria was in the southern chest of Swamp Palace, which forced a double dip of either Mire or Swamp. 2 of the longer double dips that you can take, but honestly, Mire would be the one that I would pick first over Swamp any day.
Yeah, and then seeing a question in chat, just to clarify for folks, we refer to no mode, so that is KNOW mode, as in knowledge mode. And that means while you don't have every item yet, you do know where every item is, compared to go mode, which is you've got all the items, you just gotta go.
Stop mode, I actually like that one.
Yeah, the mode where you get an item that is so good that you just stop playing and take a break, sit on your heels, and go, I've got this in the bag. Folks, don't ever go into stop mode. All right, well, we'll see here if John goes to 8. Okay, John's going to 8. You got this, buddy. Just
Come on, make the right play.
Well, it looks like we're gonna go check out the Ice Rod Cave first. Which, yeah, sure, sometimes that works. You never know.
There's a hint in one of these caves.
And thought about it and is leaving. Maybe John. I'm not quite sure what that happened there. I have to be honest, ladies and gentlemen.
This could have been a little bit of a brain fart where you think you're playing a regular game and you just mirror check that, but nope.
And with that, folks, Kyong is in no mode.
Okay, that was close.
Whew. John gets the cave.
Just about had his shield eaten by an enemy similar to a like.
So I believe John does. Yeah, John does know that the fire rod is up on Bumper Cave. Looks to be heading that way right now. So
race to the finish, anybody?
Yeah, we'll see here. The going to Light World first is a bit odd. Trying to figure out the logic behind that. Maybe
now
gonna go check. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Dark World Cave for Bumper Cave switched with the trail up Death Mountain in inverted. So you have to
Oh,
do
that's
Bumper
right.
Cave in the light world and mirror at its end to get that item.
That's right. Thank you so much for that, Leslie. It's yet another one of the little quirks about inverted mode. And we see Kyung having a very nice fight so far against Argus. And just getting that last puff, and great job. All right, here we go. And that is no mode for JohnRossums as well. Both runners now in no mode, with JohnRossums having 5 completed dungeons, and Hyung just getting his 6th completed dungeon. So very, very close race.
So John's going to have to make the move to Skull Woods, defeat Mothula, and then head over to get Big Bomb to get the bow.
Yes, indeed. Whereas Kyung will be already ready to go and do that.
That right now could be the difference in this race.
I think we're gonna have a pretty exciting ending here. Again, just to give a shout out, this has been a great race for. Kyung appears to have. Oh, there we go. Doing the glitch to bring the bomb along. But very, very good race from both our runners so far. Definitely a challenging seed. So they're putting their all in here.
So that thing that Kyung just did was definitely a glitch to bring that bomb along. I didn't just imagine the timer going to 0 and then the bomb appearing on the next screen.
Nope, and there we go. We've got the bow. So, ladies and gentlemen, Kyung is in go mode.
Doesn't even need that other chest. Uh-oh.
Yeah, I'm not even sure what could have been in that other chest that would have been worth it. You already have silvers, you already have blue mail, you're pretty good on hearts. There aren't any more swords. I don't think you need anything.
Well, the only other things you really need at this point, well, I don't know if it's in hard mode explicitly or not, but half magic's always nice in this situation. Correct me on that, chat. This is actually my first rodeo with hard mode.
Yeah, no half magic in hard mode.
That's unfortunate, but that's understandable as to why it would take some of the challenge out of it.
Yeah, JohnRossums with a great Mothula fight. Just interesting to compare. Kyung fought Mothula much earlier, I believe swordless, and John obviously fighting Mothula right now. You can see just the difference in the difficulty. That fight taking significantly longer for Kyung, and JohnRossums having a much easier time of it.
Yeah, that was a really quick Mothula fight. Looked really clean. I've been practicing Mothula myself to try and do the fight better, but I find myself at times where I have to play defensive because I'm just getting bad RNG.
Yeah, and the important thing to note now is we said earlier, JohnRossums had 5 dungeons, Kyung had 6. Well, now they're both at 6, so we weren't kidding about this not being a very close race.
Yep, and while Kyung's going to take a dungeon lead, John's not going to be too far behind, because that bow is going to make the Vitreous fight laughable. Especially with silvers. Or am I missing the thing in hard mode?
No, fortunately, silvers only work on Ganon in hard mode. But no, your logic there is pretty sound. With the upgrade to the sword that they both have, shouldn't be too tricky.
Yeah, the sword upgrade definitely helps. The cape definitely helps that fight move along. But I mean, there's just so many other situations where that fight's tough, and not having tempered sword and cape is the one I'm thinking of.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, as of that boat pickup, both of our runners are in go mode, with Kyong at having 3 dungeons and JohnRossums having 4 left, and we're just shy of 1 hour and 40 minutes into this seed. Still anybody's game, but now it's just pure execution.
That it is, and that's where the fun begins. The only other variation that can pop up at this point is a left-right play in Ganon's tower.
Yep. And, still could have deaths here, still could have some efficiencies due to routing, but exactly like you're saying, it is all down to execution at this point.
Kyong wasting no time going onto the route to Helmasaur King. As for the Big Key and Turtle Rock, I believe they both did on earlier visits.
Yes, they both have the Big Key for Turtle Rock. Obviously now Kyong has, I believe they both have the Big Key for Pod and for Meyer as well. So both runners basically have all the items they need. We don't even need to do any Big Key searches except for the Ganon's Tower Big Key.
Yep, stay tuned for that game, folks, as that will be coming up as soon as we get to that point. Now, the only thing I can think of what John's doing here is dungeon selection. In Go mode, you have the freedom to pick whichever dungeon you choose. I think he might be setting up to try and finish on a Light World dungeon so he can save and quit over to Hyrule Castle. To be pretty smart to do.
That would be a very clever move. May not save that much time. Race this close, it could be the difference. And ladies and gentlemen, if you're just joining us, this is a round 3 match. And the mode is in dungeon. If you're a little confused about why we're getting some pendant pickups here, it's because we do need to clear all the dungeons to complete the seed. And JohnRossums here going to be using those spins down to, only down to 1 heart. Careful, John.
Don't die now. Pull out that cape if you got to, but don't die now.
Well done. Very clutch job there, pulling it out with the bow. Give a round of applause for JohnRossums on a very tough Vitreous fight.
Nicely done. There are a couple of run killer bosses in the NMG run, and Vitreous is definitely one of them.
And Kyong is making his way over to Turtle Rock. Don't know if Kyong, yeah, getting the portal here. Thought where they were going for the typical entrance into TR and was gonna say, no, don't do that.
Looks like we've got a double dose of Turtle Rock action coming our way.
Indeed, it's runners are maybe 15 seconds behind each other heading into Turtle Rock here, with the caveat that Kyong does have an additional dungeon completed.
Yep, but at the same time, the 2 dungeons that John has not completed are back to back. So that will definitely make time up. Maybe not enough time, but it'll certainly make up some of it.
Well, and it's so interesting, Leslie, when you pointed out earlier that John does appear to know that if he touches with Alice, he can just save and quit and be right at the pyramid, which could make up a couple seconds, maybe even a minute here.
Excellent 1 cycle by Kyong. That execution. Wow.
Yeah, great Trinex fight. John's heading in about now. John has it down as well.
Already menu to the flute, so that means he's got Misery Mire on the brain.
Yeah, and that is going to be Kyong's last dungeon. All right, John, let's see how you do on Trinex with his 3 necks, which I only recently figured out is the reason why Trinex is called Trinex.
Also interesting to note is that Trinex is the first boss in the series to take advantage of the opposing elements of fire and ice in one boss battle. And there have been many battles since, but this was where it started, right here.
Yeah, and JohnRossums also having a pretty good Trinex fight, so it's going to be close here. Who gets into GT first? But I think Kyong has a slight advantage just because it only needs to finish that one dungeon, even though the 2 that JohnRossums have are pretty quick.
Kyong clearing. I know I'm a bit behind here due to some technical headaches on my end that I have no control over. Blame the ISP. But Kyong really cleaned out Room 2 very quickly and easily.
Yeah, and yeah, it's I'm just kind of sitting back and watching. Not much to say about this at this point, other than you hope for some good execution. Now, I know we were talking earlier that we were thinking that JohnRossums would first do Pod and then do Eastern Palace, but it appears the opposite's happening.
I mean, that really doesn't matter all that much, because all he has to do, really, is if you know the inverted overworld, is that they added a stretch of land to form a halfway bridge over to Pyramid. I believe, now chat, correct me if I'm wrong here, I believe that if you step on that and Agawani is defeated, you mirror to the light world there. I could be wrong, though, so if I'm right, I'm right, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
Yeah, and Kyong also with a very good Vitreous.
And Vitreous is such a satisfying item.
Yep, and John just about at the theirs, but John with Kyong getting that last one. You know what time it is?
Time to play the game!
Indeed it is. So it is time for the Big Key guessing game. You enter your number in chat if you are a subscriber, and you can get that Big Key. Right, you will. You'll get yourself on the leaderboard. So with that, we will get it going, and going to be stopping right now.
That's a quick one.
Yeah, very, very quick. So there's 1, 2, it's nothing so far. Going right side here, Kyong is.
Now, when you get a small key in the hope chest, as they're called, right side suddenly makes a lot more sense.
Indeed, it's a much more reasonable play.
The alternative of getting a key on the left side and then going right
I don't mean to interrupt, but I don't know if John realizes that Pod isn't done.
This happened to me in the fall. Around the last tournament, so yeah.
Oh no, this is gonna... Oh. Well, of course, here's the real problem. Because Pod is a pendant dungeon, John won't even realize his mistake until a bit later. Oh dear. Oh, John.
Oh, but this could end badly. I mean, we've all made this mistake before, but when you add on top of it that it's an all-dungeon seed, that means the phase 4 of the Ganon fight is only going to end with him falling off or dying.
Oh, you hate to see this. Now maybe this is an intentional burst to go do. I just.
Yeah, yeah, just like you said, you hate to see this.
Yeah, especially, and there we have the big key, folks. Somebody give me the number that I believe it was 10. For the Ganon Tower big key. 12. Okay, thank you there, chat. So we will. Anybody who guessed 12, that is going to be our winner. So good. Congratulations to anybody who guessed 12.
Well, I picked 7, which was a miss on this one.
I honestly didn't even get my guessing because I've forgotten how quick it is between the last night, the start of Ganon's Tower.
Yep, it's quicker than a hiccup.
So okay, well let's hope here that John realizes that Pod is not complete and needs to go back and get it. Even without realizing that, we will have a very close Ganon's Tower climb, I guess. We've got that going for us. But you just hope that John remembers to go do Pod.
Well, then again, speaking of insults that this game does throw, if you get progression in Link's house, and a hit pops up for that item, name of said item will, well, let's just say the hint calls you a numpty. Just silly, amusing things in a randomizer.
Yeah, almost getting that one cycle there on Lamola 2, but just getting that spin in to finish it off.
But the silver arrow is only working on Ganon, and the fire rod definitely becomes your next best option in Landmola 2.
Oh, definitely. You've got to pull that out and use it because regular arrows are not what you want to be using on Landmola. And again, to clarify for chat there, the reason we are concerned about John not completing, because this is an all dungeon seed, not a normal. You only have to clear out the crystal seed.
Now, when running low on health like John was, bonking over to this room is definitely a run saver. Because dying from anywhere here on, the higher up you are and you go down, the bigger the time loss.
I definitely agreed. It's always good to know your limits when you're playing Randomizer. If you know that you're going to be nervous, getting a little tilted heading up through GT on that low of health, just take the time and go do it. You'll thank yourself for not making a mistake later. And Kyong getting his revenge on Moldorm too. No falls this time.
Oh, that revenge you get kill against Moldorm when you get it without getting Trolldorm just feels so sweet. Doesn't need anything else, so not gonna bother with the last one. Just gonna round third, head straight up for Aga 2.
Alright, it is time for everybody's favorite subject, trigonometry. Let's see how the angles work out today. That is 2 for Kyong right off the bat there. Not bad. Ooh, missing everything on that one. It was a tough pattern, though.
Yeah, some of the
difficult
real
pattern.
tough patterns can be real nasty, but look at that on John's side. That one cycle.
Ooh, yes, John really putting on a show here in Ganon's Tower. And Kyong just really running into some nasty patterns from Aga2, not giving him anything to work with.
Now the fact that they're so out of sync is really giving him nothing to work with.
Oh yeah, this is one of the tougher Aga2s I've seen. Kyong's got a. There we go, getting that last
He's
hit in.
getting blue balled to heck as well.
Oh yeah, it was tough, but clutched it out. So hats off to Kyong, and about to have our fight against Ganon himself.
Yeah, that was Chad's got that counted out at a 9-phase Aga2. That was definitely a tough one.
Yeah, not one that you want to put in your record books, but good on Kyong for sticking to it and getting that one, because you don't want to get too in your head there. So here we go with Kyong fighting Ganon and John taking on Moldorm 2. And Moldorm 2 down. So Moldorm does not get revenge on either player in the second round. Kyong doing a great job dodging those bats. And we're on to Ganon Phase 3.
Now, what I'm curious about is how does that dash strat work? Because I know I've seen others utilize it. I've seen Willard use it. Not really sure how that works, but that pretty much just guarantees a Phase 2 one cycle, even if you don't get God Corner.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think, a little more difficult to pull off, but has a nice upside. And with that, Kyong is in the final phase. And just a few more hits here, and that will be GG. Getting the double, 1 hit left. And with the fall, Ganon is exploding. So this is going to be a win for Kyong. Congratulations to Kyong and John fighting Aga2 here, and also struggling with that desync. And yes, with the official missing the time because Kyong doesn't have a timer, but it'll be about 157.20. So we'll say congratulations to Kyong, and unfortunately John finishing Aga2 will not be able to go on to Ganon because Pod is not complete.
No, he did have a good takedown of Aga2.
Yeah. Now we do have Kyong, I think, potentially able to do an interview. So we'll see if we can get Kyong in here for that.
He's already in setup. I can bring him in. With that, we are joined by our winner of this race, Kyong. GG, well played.
GG, great job.
So that was definitely a seed that started out really tough and some rather challenging spots, and then the routing just turned really linear. And then towards the late seed, you had turned out you guys had a choice between either a double dip of of Mire or Swamp. Nasty choice.
Yeah. I didn't do the right choices there near the end. Wasn't pretty.
Yeah, I feel like that's one where you feel like no matter what you pick, it was the wrong one. But turns out that you had to pick one.
2 options were okay, and I picked the other one.
Yeah, well, talk a little bit about the beginning of this seed. We saw both you and John, obviously, being a hard mode and inverted seed. have some problems early on. You had some problems with blind. Can you talk us through what was going through your head there and what you were thinking to calm yourself down and get that blind kill through?
I wasn't too worried, honestly. I didn't play the fight really well. There was one moment where I meant to hammer one way, but hammered the other way. That basically killed me. But I wasn't stressing out that much. Because if I was already planning to leave if I ended up dying, just clearing the rest, especially with that hint saying that a sword was in pot. So it was fine.
Yeah, the sword placement on this scene was very interesting. Saw obviously that hit early, and then the sword on the lumberjacks plus spectacle rock and Zora. What were you thinking as the swords sort of started showing up throughout the playthrough?
Yeah, I definitely ended up doing a few things before the rest of the sword showed up, which definitely slowed me down a fair amount. But went alright.
So, were there any parts of this seed that really stuck out in your mind that you're going to remember for a bit for maybe the next matches you have?
That's tough because I don't remember very well the things to begin with, so I guess every one of these inverted seats, the whole looping you end up doing in Death Mountain is kinda amazing in some sort.
Yeah,
Because
we
especially
we
this being all
noticed.
dungeons, you end up even finishing with Agatar in the end was quite the thing.
Yeah, we noticed the dodges you had against the Lionel.
Yeah, that was.
Those are some grade A Lionel dodges, I might add.
And just to interject real quick, JohnRossums has defeated Helmasaur, get that last pendant. Looks to be finishing out the seat, so we'll see him head over in a minute or two.
Now, what really decided this seed at the end is that you made the play to the island first to get the cape. John didn't do that until very late, and that was a major deciding factor in who won this.
Yeah, I heard about that. Usually I just check Hobo and Lake Hylia there because they usually don't have anything. But since it wasn't my first inverted seed where I actually had something there on the lake, and which ended up having to change my route on the fly there, and I decided to get it then, and get it together with North Hyrule stuff.
Yeah. So just real quick, JohnRossums is going to do the... So give him a chance to show off his Ganon skills here. Very nice spin. Good job trapping Ganon down in the corner there, phase 2. Yeah, well, Keon, one thing we saw was just to see both you and John had excellent execution. Hats off to you both on that.
Yeah. Oh, I wanted to mention, sorry about my timer. I had to reinstall live split, and I forgot that the default is to not accept background inputs. So I pressed the keybind to start the timer, but it didn't work.
No worries, I've been working with some technical issues on my side here as well. Well,
Oh, and John gets a double. And let's see if he gets a second double. He does. Great job to finish that seed out strong. Very nice Ganon fight. So, GG to JohnRossums. This is going to be probably about a 204.23 or so. And John just running around in a circle a little bit. and that official is going to get, I think, a 204.25. So GG again to John.
RaceBot has the official time of 2 hours, 4 minutes, 26 seconds. Get your GGs in chat, everybody. Now, just quick to mention, my previous point is that unfortunately, I had some restream issues, which is why I've been behind all night, and come to find out it is something that is completely out of my hands at the ISP level. Yeah.
So Kyong, another question for you. With inverted being a new mode here, what are your thoughts? What do you like about what sort of keeps you up at night and makes you worried?
Inverted is certainly a different experience. It's really volatile how it begins. The beginning is really the critical thing, I think. Well, the beginning and when you get light world access, because you can get bottlenecked extremely hard at the beginning and have to do the super low percent fights, like if our blind had gloves instead of it being on the pyramid, for example, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the second big thing is how you get a few items and then you get light world access, so you just get a insane amount of locations all at once, even more than when you do a normal seed at the start, because you already have some other items. So it can really be tough to navigate and, I guess, go to the place where the items are, I guess.
Yeah, you can definitely see that there at the start. It's very tricky. So JohnRossums unfortunately will not be able to join us for a day. So just to wrap things up, any final questions, Leslie, that you had?
I do have to agree with what was said about how inverted the beginning is very critical, because I've had seeds where, I mean, you could easily have a seed where you could literally get trolled and be down to the last check very early. So that's something that can definitely happen. That and when you get light world access, both are very, very critical points in how those seeds play out. Tripping on my words horribly tonight.
All right, and Kyong, any fun to give our viewers this evening?
And just thanks for the restream and commentary, tracking and everything.
Well, absolutely, and thank you to both our runners being restreamed, putting on a great race today. Yeah, make sure to give them a follow again. That's going to be Kyong92 and JohnRossums, our commentators this evening were myself, Axial, and Leslie Pro _04. You can see over in chat we've got links to everybody's Twitch. So that's again Kyong92, JohnRossums. I'm at SA _Axial. Leslie is at Leslie Pro _04, and our tracker tonight was Nifboy, NIFBOY. So thank you again, everybody, for tuning in, and thank you to our runners for a great match. Good luck to them both in the rest of the tournament.
Absolutely. Wish them both the best. But before we get out of here, little update on what's coming up on the Speed Gaming calendar. We do have some very late night tournament action coming up on Speed Gaming, and for the daytime, kicks off with a Cuphead All Bosses tournament, and then at 1 o'clock, right here on Speed Gaming, Game 1 of the A Link to the Past Randomizer Tournament Finals, as well as at 9 o'clock over on Speed Gaming 4, the SMB3 Randomizer Weekly Race, which last week a tournament was announced for January, so you definitely want to check that out. Actually, check both of those out because they're both going to be awesome.
Sound like some great matches. Folks definitely should put that on your calendars. Check those out. Should be good races.
Yeah, and speaking of good races, we've got the Zelda 1 Rando Winners Final tomorrow night on this channel at 10 o'clock. That should be a treat.
Definitely. So, any final thoughts, Leslie, before we sign off?
Well, it was a good seed. It was a fun one. Unfortunately, for what happened on my end, it is what it is, and I just have to hope that things outside my hands work better next time, which is all we can hope for. Still, it was a good race and a lot of fun to watch and a lot of fun to come, and I hope to do it again soon.
Great. Well, again, thank you everybody for tuning in, and whether this is morning, evening, you had a great time, and we'll see you next match. So thank you.
Yep, have a good night, everybody. Take care.